what I love about Jonathan Van Ness is that he goes into spaces where he knows that the people around him are not going to be accepting of who he is. Yet, he's not, that doesn't make him fearful. That doesn't make him shrink into himself. That makes him like double down and like dig deep and find that confidence. Like finding that inner confidence that what you're doing, being who you are, like very explicitly and out loud in front of people, like having that confidence to know that being that way is a good thing and being that way is inspiring for people. That's just amazing to me. If you have followed the rules but feel unsatisfied with where that's gotten you, this podcast is for you.
We'll help you learn how to reach your goals through creativity, intuition, and flow.
Welcome to the Flow into Authenticity podcast.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
How is everyone today?
Uh-oh.
Long pause.
Oh, no.
I was waiting for you all. I'm okay. I think we're all kind of low energy. What do y'all think?
We are.
I'm doing well. My energy is being sustained by the two of you.
Oh, thanks.
That's great. It totally is. It's so nice to be able to hop on here with you and talk about fun stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like I'm half asleep, but I'm really excited to like sleep, dream, talk with you about our topic today, which is mentors, coaches, role models, expanders, advocates. It's basically all the people who can help us on our journey in a variety of ways. This is such a fun topic. So yeah, I'm just excited to jump right in.
Yeah, I love that sleep dream talk. I love that. Let's do that. Sounds very dreamy. Yeah, and it's like why do we need these kind of people in our life in this process of becoming who we are becoming next, I guess. Like, yeah, it's such an important part of the process. We wanted to delve into it in its own episode.
And I appreciate our opportunity to talk about this because mentoring is a big part of my professional work. So on an average day, I'm thinking about it from the position of the mentor as provider. But I need to be reminded every once in a while that I need mentors, I need helpers too. And so being able to think about it from the other side of the relationship.
That's a really good point. I was just on the East Coast and got to meet up with a friend of mine who is a very established, well-respected administrator doing all sorts of great work for inclusivity in the math community. And like the kind of person you would think who had figured it all out. And he was telling me that he just got a coach. He got himself a coach because he realized there was a skill that he didn't have that he felt like it would be valuable for his work. And so I was just so impressed that someone who had achieved like that level of professional success would like have the knowledge that you're never done growing, and would actively seek out a coach to help with this problem he was having. So
yeah, that's so great. Absolutely. Yeah, and this is what we talk about all the time, is that we're always growing and expanding and evolving to the next version I was just on a call today that uh, one of the people on the call was talking about, the poet Young Pueblo.
Mm-mm.
He was giving a talk and he was talking about how he's like evolving to the next thing, which is totally not writing at all. And we were just like, wow, so it's like we're always growing. And I think it's such a mark of not professionalism, a mark of being grown.
Being a grown ass woman or grown ass person.
Being mature in
Yeah.
your knowledge to say I need help, right? Like I hired a book coach this year because I knew I really needed to develop that skill, and I needed someone to help me to move past my own limitations in my mind. So yeah, it's a beautiful mark of maturity to be able to say that I need help. I've been working on this a lot. And we're going to talk about like one-on-one expanders or teachers or mentors. And we're also going to talk about people who can just be, this word, expanders, from afar, right? Who you don't really need to hire them or know them in person. So we're going to talk about all this and why we need them.
Right. Well, first of all, can I just put a big disclaimer on the whole conversation? So when I was in grad school, I know felt like people would ask you like, who is your mentor? As if there was one person in the world who is your mentor. I know Jen knows what I'm about to say. So there's this amazing woman named Carrie Ann Rockmore who started the National Center for Faculty Development and Diversity. And she came to speak with us about mentorship. And she, like, basically the title of her workshop is There Is No Guru, because oftentimes people think that there's one person in the world who's gonna be able to guide them through, any transition, any problem that they're dealing with. But in reality, you really need a whole network. You need a constellation of people who can help you, and each person um, can help you with a different kind of thing that you need. Jen, did you take that workshop? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. I also was thinking about that phrase, there is no guru. And I think it's so wise because it's not fair to place your expectation for receiving all of your needs, all of your help from one person. Different people have different skills and perspective. And so why limit yourself to just having one go-to person? I mean, one person is a start, but it doesn't need to be the end of the road for your mentoring network. The other thing, I know this calls back to what Esther was talking about a moment ago. We evolve over time. Our needs evolve. And so as we grow and change, we might need to bring more and different people into our circle of support to help us achieve whatever our next thing is.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're all multifaceted, and so it's so important to like keep that in mind. And I know that like all of us are like mentors or expanders or teachers in some way, and like we don't want to be I don't want to be anybody's like guru or like only source of inspiration. That sounds terrible. And like way too much pressure. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, so yeah, let's jump into it.
Yeah, and I think that gets to the question that you were starting to ask, Esther, is that you said, why do we need mentors? Why do
Yeah.
we need these people in our lives? And I think if you recognize that you need people for, 20 different things,
Right.
it can help you identify who you need, what you need them for, why you need them. Um, so Now that's starting to feel like a really big question.
So, mentors.
Well, let's start
what are
at
they
the
good
beginning.
for?
Why do we need them? Why do we need, I first started talking about expanders, and I got this word expanders from this kind of this woman, Lacey Phillips, who does this work called To Be Magnetic. She was talking about expanders in this way. And it's a way for us to expand our mind, right? To see what is possible. So in my work, if you've been listening to the podcast, we talk about once you have a dream or you have like an idea or you begin to realize that something needs to shift in your life, or you're looking for more the next step. What is the next step in your life, that we're growing into? Our brain, because it's always trying to keep us safe, will come up with assumptions about what's possible. So like, oh, I could only, I hear this a lot from clients. Oh, well, I feel like something needs to change, but I could only get this kind of job, And so I have to ask them like, well, what kind of job? It's hard a lot of times to get to the key point of like, what kind of job do you want or need in your life, or how do you want to feel? But once we get there and decide like, what do I want? What's next for me? Finding these expanders, I love that word because it's like expanding your mind, to see what's possible. Or mentors, or role models is a good one, can help us teach our brain what's possible. So like if I grew up in a small town, like a good example is like when, a person of color is like, I've never seen like maybe, I grew up in a small town and I've never seen a role model, a person of color who was like in the position of doing my dream job, right?
That's exactly what I was thinking about, because I have a friend who's a Black man who never saw any other Black mathematicians going through school and didn't know that it was possible for Black men to become mathematicians, even though they're out there. But once he discovered this website that this older Black man was hosting that basically tracked the history of Black mathematicians in the US, once he found that, it was like a revelation for him. Like, oh my gosh, it is possible for me to do this.
Yeah, because we literally cannot see, and this has been proven so many times, like in scientific studies, that we like literally cannot see what we don't know, what we haven't seen before, we're not focusing on, right? So once we decide to focus on something and realize and put our mind and have the person an example of what's possible, we can see it for ourselves and we can tell our brain that it's possible. And that's what's so beautiful about like so many shows that are out now where, it is like, more diversity of people in more positions. I mean, we have a long way to go, but like at least like now, like web, the internet, TV shows, it's like trying to get a little bit more of like, okay, yes, this is possible for everybody. Whether it's being in a relationship, so many people who've been in the closet, it was so much harder before where it was like, they couldn't see that it was possible, that's why, it's so tragic when like people end their lives or, it's because they can't see that, oh, I could make a life that I actually want, So it's so important. Like when we're going through these changes, when we feel called, we feel that nudge of like intuition that wants us to grow and expand, to find mentors or expanders or role models, even if they're not in person, even if they're on TV, or online, like to find them, to teach our brain what's possible.
I love that you're talking about this. It's resonating for me, and it's reminding me that, okay, so I'm trained as a chemist. In my undergraduate training, I had 0 women in my chemistry department.
Hmm.
I went to graduate, so that's about, let's say, 0 out of 10 professors. I went to graduate school. In my chemistry department, there were about 30 professors, one of whom was a woman.
God.
And one of my mentors, and I say that this is a person who actually was helpful to me in many ways, asked me, and I'll say, more than once, asked me when my boyfriend was going to marry me.
Oh my God.
What?
So I was not raised with
Ew.
the model of women being
Right.
chemists as, a legitimate thing out there in the world.
Wow.
Have there been women chemists historically? Yes, of course there have been. But it was not something that was really part of my frame of reference in my training.
Wow, that's
Mm.
such a good example. Have you seen Lessons in Chemistry? That TV
Read
show?
read the
The
book.
book, yeah. So she's like, how many women chemists do you know? It would be interesting to talk about our first actual expanders or role models, just real quickly.
Mm.
Because I'm curious, Jen, when you talk about that, I can think of my own, but like, who was your kind of first role model or expander? It could be like, well, probably back then it was probably in person, right? Or maybe somebody that you heard
Are you
about.
saying Jen's old?
We're all around the same. Well, I think you and I, Jen and I are about the same age.
I'm just a couple of years older. I will be the
Yeah.
resident old person. Yeah.
We're not
My
that far apart in age, you guys.
we're not. We're
I
not.
know.
So I will say for me, and yes, it was in person. It was my high school chemistry teacher. Now, I applied to college as a sociology major,
Hmm.
and yet I had a chemistry teacher my senior year of high school who looked me straight in the eyes and said, "You're good at this. You should do this."
Oh,
Wow.
And I had never
wow.
before thought about chemistry as a professional pathway. So she really expanded for me the notion of what I was good at and capable of doing.
Mm,
That's so beautiful.
that's amazing.
Oh, if my high school chemistry teacher could tell me something, it would be stop skipping school and don't do this for a living.
Oh
That's so
no.
beautiful, though. What about you, Allison? Who was your
Um,
first?
so
Or it doesn't have to be first. It could be
yeah,
some.
it wasn't super important to me to see other women in math, to be perfectly honest, because I like hanging around with guys. So the fact that there are lots of guys around was like a bonus for me.
Oh, that's so
So,
awesome. I love that.
um, but what I think about is I look for expanders for like who's doing the whole academic career pathway differently. Who is not just, publishing research papers, teaching their classes, serving on university committees, but who's in this job but doing something like so out of the box that it just you didn't even know that was possible. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
be that person, and
Yeah.
I needed people to show me it was possible.
Yeah. That's such a great example, hearing from both of you and hearing from you, Allison, that, that wasn't actually a block for you,
Mm.
but, you actually needed something else in your expansion of your mind, different. So we all need different things
Mhm.
in that sort of expansion. The person that comes to my mind is when I was in my 20s, I worked for a photographer for a while. I was her studio manager. And she gave me lots of little wisdoms along the way. And, but just seeing her, she was a total badass and like just ran her own business, really stood up for what she believed in. And she really taught me, you know, that you can like do what you want. She always told me, if you don't like your life, you can change it. Just figure out what it is and change it. You know, she showed me that I could run my own business, that I could do what I want to do, you know, and
That's
to become more of myself, you know.
It's interesting that people can be really amazing mentors without putting any energy into it. And it just goes to show how, living your best life, like following your dreams actually benefits a lot of other people without you having to directly be involved in their
Oh my
mentorship.
gosh. Yes. And we talk about this all the time. I feel like on this
Mhm.
podcast that like
Mhm.
just you being like doing, like if you are a mom and you are doing what you want to do and following your passion, you are literally allowing your kids, other, women, other people to see your passion and you can be their expander just by
Mhm.
being, you
Mhm.
know?
Or a dad. I look at my husband
Yeah,
James, who's like the
yes.
most amazing stay-at-home dad
Mhm.
ever. And
Mhm.
it's starting to become more okay to be a stay-at-home dad, but that's because there have been role models for this, and he is going to be a great role model for our son if he decides he
Yeah.
wants to stay home with the kids someday.
Yeah, and both of you, like both of your the dynamic is such a great
Mm,
role model for people who are like, "Oh, well, I want to do this, but I can't because,
right.
just seeing you, they're like, "Oh, yeah, I can." So, yeah.
Mhm.
Just a reminder that I'm a career transition coach, and if you're in a place in your life where you are feeling like something needs to change, feeling like you need to grow and expand out of where you are now, but don't know how to get there, I have a few open spots for 6-month coaching, and I can help you to find your next steps by using your intuition and connecting to yourself and your inner voice. So go ahead over to flowintoauthenticity.com if you are interested in having a free 20-minute connection call with me to see if it might be a good fit or how I can help you. And thanks everybody for listening. I hope you really enjoyed this show.
So you've alluded to the fact that mentoring does not necessarily need to be an active endeavor, like I am going to mentor you. So,
Mhm.
can you think of examples in your own life where you feel like you've received some sort of mentorship or help from a person that maybe you don't even know?
Yeah,
Oh,
can I give my example?
yeah.
So again, like this could be in any realm, right? It doesn't have to be in a career. Whatever is like holding you back from the life that you want to live, the life that's calling you, that you feel drawn to. So I was like a year, maybe like a couple of years ago when I was having a lot of pain, migraines and a bunch of stuff. I was feeling really down, and I think I listened to a podcast or something that was talking about Lady Gaga and how Lady Gaga actually has like had back pain, like tremendous back pain, like debilitating back pain forever, for a really long time. And she was talking about it and how, she lives with it, this chronic illness basically. And she still performs and still, gets up and does her thing. And I just thought like, that was such an expander for me, such a role model to be like, well, wow.
Yeah.
If she can do it and she's not giving up, I can show up. Like, I can just show up as much as I can. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was like a good role model for me in like a different sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great example. That makes me think of Evie Oddly, who's like this amazing performer, drag queen, who has very serious health issues. And those health issues actually contribute to her being an amazing performer. But instead of just like being laying around in bed, she figures out like, what about this situation? Um, can I like where's the lemonade? What about this situation can I use to my benefit? Um, yeah, to motivate me or whatever. Yeah. So I think about I'm trying to think of someone I don't know who's been a role model to me or an expander. I can't think of people I don't know, but
RuPaul. RuPaul.
RuPaul.
or
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Jonathan Van Ness. Okay,
Yes.
okay. Yes. Yeah, let me think about that. So what I love about Jonathan Van Ness is that he goes into spaces where he knows that the people around him are not going to be accepting of who he is. Yet, he's not, that doesn't make him fearful. That doesn't make him shrink into himself. That makes him like double down and like dig deep and find that confidence. Like finding that inner confidence that what you're doing, being who you are, like very explicitly and out loud in front of people, like having that confidence to know that being that way is a good thing and being that way is inspiring for people. um that's just amazing to me. I just went into a math department that's kind of a traditional math department where probably the kinds of talks they're used to seeing are like, someone standing in front of a room for an hour talking and nobody else is talking or doing anything. And so me coming in and forcing them to do activities and forcing them to, help each other and shout out answers to things. I think it was really uncomfortable for some of them. And I think I used to be in a situation like that and be self conscious about it. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have put them in this situation. Maybe I should have done something that was more traditional. But I'm getting to the point where I can kind of lean into it and say, like, oh, it's good that I made them uncomfortable. It's good that I gave them this experience that they weren't
Oh,
used
I
to.
love that so much. It's like it's allowing you. So expanders like it allows you to be who you are and to
Hmm.
share your gift in the way that you can because you're like giving it gives you permission.
Yes.
That's so cool.
And what's really cool is I'm now at the point where I'm like, "Oh, can I push it even further? If I push this further, what would it look like? How could it be even cooler?" And it's making me think like these very creative thoughts. So, I'm just loving it. It's very fun. But you have to build that confidence in yourself. And I think that's one thing expanders can do for us is they can
Yeah. Yep.
help us feel justified in being confident in
Yeah.
ourselves
Yeah.
when we take a
Totally.
risk. Mhm.
So recently, we've been talking about kind of that inspiration piece, the role model piece of mentoring. Are there other elements of the mentoring or expanding perspective or experience that you want to bring into this? And I'm thinking, for example, um, the way that mentors can provide opportunity, the way that mentors can advocate for us. Sometimes it's
Mm.
just really nuts and bolts. sorts of things that mentors can assist with.
Yeah, that's really true. And we were talking about like the different kinds of mentors that you can have and their different roles. And I think like sometimes when I talk to people about like going to art school, you know, we talk about like, well, what are the benefits? One of the major benefits to me was like having those connections, right? Like um, you're able to get connected with maybe organizations that you can intern with, or like they have those connections that you
Mm-hmm.
might not have been able to, you know, achieve to to get if you weren't in that, you know, space with a
That's why
teacher.
that's why people who go to like Ivy Leagues are so successful. It's not
Yeah.
that the teachers are the most amazing educators. It's that they
hmm
make all sorts of connections with
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I really want to be better at with my students is coaching, because I've realized that what I've been doing in mentoring is like telling people, oh, this is how this is done. This is how this is done. This is how we always do this. But I'm kind of excited about the idea of coaching, where instead you ask like, what are your goals? What are you interested in? What kinds of things light you up? And like maybe this internship or this research experience doesn't make sense for the student. Maybe, you know, that we need to design a totally new path that I haven't ever seen another student go through, but that might be more powerful for the student to figure out what's next for them. Um, I'm curious to hear from Esther about coaching and about kind of what it looks like to be coached, what it looks like to be a coach, and what people can get out of that relationship.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Yeah, so it's like all of these different types of mentors or expanders have different resources, right? So, like a teacher, so in order for to get from A to B, you need a lot of things. You need to expand your mind, right?
Mm.
Past the beliefs. You need to build your skills as well. So teachers can really help with building skills and
Mhm.
also showing you what's possible, you know, like Jen, your example. Coaches take a little bit of a different role, and there's a lot of different kinds of coaches. But a lot of times, coaches will help you to recognize what it is that you desire personally and help you to move past the blocks, those assumptions in your mind, um, so that you can reach the next step, right? And so, like with my clients, I help them to, because like let's say somebody does go through school and they're, you know, in a position that they felt like they should do because they went through this whole program of school. Well, like I actually help them to get to the core of actually what they desire, what is next for them, what they're dreaming about, which can be really hard. So it's a sort of a process of, for me, there's a million different kinds of coaches, you know. For me, it's like I kind of like mirror back to them what they're desiring, or help them to uncover what they actually want. And then depending on the person, sometimes I'll help them. We're always helping them reach a goal, and I'm always helping them to tap into their intuition so that they can navigate that goal using their own intuitive guidance. And
Mm.
so one of the big things that I do is help them to recognize what intuition sounds like for them, right? So it's like we're doing so many different things. But sometimes I'm also serving as just an expander, not just, but like also an expander. Like I met
Mhm.
with somebody for a session last week, and I talked about how I had to get honest about what I wanted the past couple years, and how we sold our house and found like our, dream place and my dream studio. And that was really super expansive. And like, I don't always like to talk about myself, but it's like sometimes it's required for that expanding of the mind, right? So that, she could see like, it was actually super helpful for her. That's what she said. I'm not just making that up. She told me. I'm always like cautious about sharing my own stories, because like my main goal as a coach is to like help people to recognize their own desires.
Right.
But like sometimes we can serve as an expander to help people to move past their own, because they were saying like, I can't, like when clients start saying like, I can't do this because of this, then, there needs to be some work around those assumptions. And so, yeah, it's a lot of things that we are doing as coaches. And there's a lot of different kinds of coaches. Some people will just give you like a prescription, like follow this. But that's not how I work, but it's, it's different than teaching for sure. Yeah.
That would be such a disconnect if that's how you operated.
And like I had to hire a book coach because I needed that kind of reflection back to me, that kind of expansion and that kind of mirroring of what I wanted. Because sometimes we don't know, we can't see in our own isolated self what we need and what we want. It takes another person to like reflect back to us. Yeah.
A term that comes up frequently in my work is the notion of building capacity. So similar to what Allison was saying, we're not telling you what to do, but we are helping you. So Esther, either helping your client use their intuition or help them build those scaffolded kind of skills that they're going to be able to use to internally, right, take the next step and act on what they want to do.
Exactly. Yeah, I use that term a lot too. Building the capacity to trust yourself, building those skills and the capacity of your skills. Yeah, that's a huge concept. We should do a whole episode on that.
Wow. That is so powerful when someone can mirror to you who you are and what your strengths are. There's so much about ourselves that we take for granted because we are us, and some things come easily to us and we don't even recognize that not everyone has that ability or skill or strength. And so having someone who can just mirror back what your skills are, and that actually comes back to was it you yes, Jen, when you were talking about your high school chemistry teacher telling you, "Oh, you're good at this. You should do this." That kind of I've just been editing an article about micro affirmations. That's like a micro affirmation.
Yeah.
And micro affirmations can just be basically mirroring to people, who they are or what they want. Like, oh, you're telling me you want this. Is this a goal that you have?
Yes.
Oh, I guess that is a goal that I have. Oh, I noticed that you did really well at this. Oh, yeah, I did do really well at that. It's funny how
Yeah.
clueless we can be about ourselves, but it's totally human nature. And it's a great thing to recognize that you can help someone really profoundly by just mirroring or by giving them a micro affirmation.
Totally. Yeah, that's such a big thing you do as a teacher, as an educator. Hopefully, is be able to see somebody, and see their gifts. Yeah, we don't see them. We have a negativity bias in our brain, and we don't we don't see those gifts that we have. So yeah, that's a lot of the work I do with people, is helping them to recognize it. And once we recognize that in ourselves, like you were saying, Allison, it's like we're able to find those expanders and then stand really firmly in those gifts. And that's the beauty of it.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the great things about being ancient now is that there's something, just like you get rid of a lot of the self-consciousness that you had as a younger person as you get older. And I really am valuing that about being in my 40s, like not being the self-conscious person I was in my 20s.
Yeah. I don't know if you're ancient, but there might be some people who would argue with that. But yeah, definitely. There's like this confidence that comes of like, not having to worry about that.
And I'll say, as the most ancient of us, and I don't think I'm ancient. I'll say there are many ways in which I don't carry around the same sort of self-consciousness that I might have as a younger person. And there are some ways in which I'm more self-conscious. But that's not my point. My point is that I am a shy introvert, and so cultivating mentors is not my natural thing. So do either of you have recommendations for those of us who might be a little bit hesitant?
That is such a great point.
Yes, I think it can help to cultivate mentors around a very specific question, because while you might be shy to just go up to someone and introduce yourself and start having a conversation, if you know that you need to apply for a grant through the NSF and you've never done it before, and you know that other person has several successful NSF grants, then you can go up to them and say, "Hi, my name is Jen. I am working on this grant proposal, and I know you have several successful proposals. Could I ask you some questions about, how I should write this particular part?" Or I feel like that could be helpful for people who are shyer to have like a very specific ask or a very specific question to break the ice. So you don't have to like worry about having 20 minutes of small talk with someone.
Yeah, and make it simple, right? Like if you're sending an email, just make it really simple. How about finding an expander for being able to talk to people? I can relate, as like I had a really big social anxiety for a lot of my life, and I think that conversation about building capacity is really helpful, and doing it little by little. Like maybe you find an expander online or like in TV, and you're like, that helps you at first to kind of like, get expanded in some way that your brain might be holding you back. And then maybe you are able to, find the capacity to have like an online group, like become part of an online group, coaching group or something like that. And then maybe you go to like a social event and meet somebody. So, or email, somebody, and keep it really simple. But just like that conversation about building capacity to, to reach out, to become a little bit more social, or putting yourself out there in a way, in your own way, right? You're not going to become like totally social person probably, but what's your own way of cultivating relationships,
Yeah, a lot of
Um,
people I know who are introverted, they're really great one-on-one. So if
yeah,
you know that you're so
yeah.
much better one-on-one than you are in a group, like
hmm
don't go to that party, but maybe
Right.
reach out for a coffee date or
Coffee. Yeah, exactly.
but
hmm
having that self-awareness like, oh, this is the type of situation in which I feel
Yeah.
comfortable and this is the type where I feel uncomfortable and trying to use that to guide you about how to interact with people.
Yeah. So how do we find expanders or mentors or teachers? I mean, if you're in school, you might automatically have some teachers, and sometimes they just come into our lives when we need them, I've found.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're actively looking, like, how would y'all recommend finding people who can expand our minds?
Yeah.
Well, I think part of it goes back, Esther, to what you were saying earlier about knowing yourself and taking a little bit of time to identify what is it that you need. Right? So get clear on what it is that you are looking to move into, or what kind of a skill or an opportunity it is that you need help with, and then use that to help you range find uh, who are potential people that
Wait,
can
what's
help you.
range find?
Range, not
Range.
rage.
Yeah,
Not
range.
rich
No, no, no,
range.
no. What's range find?
Range.
That was me.
Allison's drunk. You just like we have to explain Allison's a little bit like sleep drunk.
I still don't know what
No, sorry.
range
Range. I don't either. Can you
find
explain?
means.
I'm sorry. I might have even just made that term up. But no. For me, range finding is just defining the scope or kind of the expansiveness of who am I looking at? Who am I looking for? What's my range of
Yeah.
people and potentially where might I want to look?
Mm.
So we've talked a lot about value tagging, right? So like when you tell your brain, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a pink Mercedes, or I'm looking for somebody who can help me because my brain, okay, so my brain is telling me I can't become an artist because I haven't gone to art school. Well, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an expander who hasn't gone to art school, who's doing what I'm doing or is successful, right? So your brain goes, oh, okay, we're looking for that now. And it starts to find it, right? Is that kind of what
Last
you're talking
night,
about?
last night I was putting Charlie to bed and he was talking about things that he wishes would happen. And I said, well, put it out in the universe. Then he was like, okay, this is what I want and this is what I want. And he raised his arms above his head and he said, I'm putting it out into the universe.
Oh my
And he said, Mama,
gosh.
I have this idea. What if I put this wish out into the universe every day? Would that help? Like maybe that
Oh,
would help make it happen. And
yes. Little
I,
manifester.
I know, I
Oh,
was
I
like,
love
this is
it.
perfect. Yeah, if you put it out into the
Oh.
universe every day that you're looking for a certain kind of
Mm-hmm. Yep.
expander,
Yep.
then you can start value tagging all these things
Right.
and connecting with people who might like, oh, actually, I know someone like that. Let me set you up
Yes.
for a coffee date.
Talking
Yeah.
about it with people, just saying, yeah, I'm looking for this. Do you know of anybody who's ever done this?
Actually, this happened to me. So, when I got out of grad school, I was really interested in mentoring undergraduates and research, but I had no idea how to mentor someone else and learning how to do research. And so there was someone who was a mentor of mine, like an assigned mentor, which normally doesn't go very well, but this went well in my case. Um, and I said, I'm really looking for this. Do you know if there's like a workshop or something where I can learn how to do this? And he said, let me think about it. And he texted me like within 24 hours and he said, I think I have something for you. And basically, he had hooked me up to go mentor a whole research team in a summer research program for undergraduates, where I could, while I was mentoring them, I could be mentored by a more senior research mentor in the group.
Wow.
So I was able to attend the other group's meetings and see firsthand like how he ran meetings, what kinds of things he expected from his students. And then I could also research or mentor my team of researchers. And it was so great. It was like the absolute best way to learn how to do that, by doing it with support. And I just put it out into the universe that I wanted some sort of experience, some training in how to do that. And that's how it came about.
I've had so many experiences like that. And I even sometimes we don't even know what we want until we see somebody who has it. And we can get jealous. Jealousy is a good, if you don't know you actually want something and you get jealous of somebody, that's your expander. I met this woman who's very expander in a lot of ways for me, but she had her own studio in her house. And I was like, oh, I want that. I didn't know I wanted it, but I want it. So yeah. Or even looking at photos, right? When I was looking for our apartment that we have now, I found this photo and it was all windows. All I could think about was windows, a view. And I even posted on Instagram. I was like, this is my apartment. Everybody was laughing at me, but I was like, no, I'm serious. I found a photo that was just all windows. And I was like, this is my apartment, my next apartment. But yeah, even photos, looking at things, making mood boards or vision boards, those can all be expanders.
This sounds like a 4% opportunity that we're dancing around here.
Jen, do you want to give us our 4%, Jen?
Absolutely. So listeners, what is one thing that your brain is telling you that you can't do? And then who is a person who might be doing that thing? Who are the people already in your life that you can talk to about that thing? What are the ways that you can expand outward in the way that you need to grow?
I love that.
And how can you put it in the universe?
Make it happen.
And it can be, both Allison and Esther, I appreciate that when you were talking about actionable ways to cultivate your mentoring circle a few minutes ago, you kept the scale really small, really manageable. Right? Yeah. Remember, we're not talking about mentor with a capital M. There is no guru. This can just be a very small and time limited thing.
Totally. And it's just once you are aware of those assumptions and that you know what to look for, things will start happening. And that's that 4%. It's just becoming aware, right? And it's what is my brain telling me I should do and what is it telling me I shouldn't do? Yeah. Is it telling me I shouldn't be too loud or shouldn't make paintings that are all pink? I don't know.
Or give a math talk where you make people do stuff in the audience.
Yeah. So yeah. Keep an eye out, make a note of what your brain is telling you, and then start questioning or looking for those expanders that can open your mind up to what's possible.
Awesome. It's been so wonderful getting to talk to you both about this fun subject. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Flow into Authenticity podcast with your hosts, Esther Loopstra, Jen Sorensen, and me, Allison Henrich. Our original theme music is by James Wetzel, and James Wetzel also does sound editing. If you like what you've heard today, we hope that you will subscribe, like, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app.